Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Curious Realm's continuing coverage of Turning the Tide 9/11 Justice right here in Washington, D.C. We have the incredible pleasure of being joined by the indomitable David Chandler. When I saw some of the names, as I told you before and as my audience knows, I am not I'm embedded in a lot of groups. But yours is one of the only names that I am familiar with when it comes to 9/11.
Really?
And some of this data. There are only a few, like when I was invited to come and somebody was like, do you know who Richard Gage is? I was like, absolutely, I know who Richard Gage is. But you are one of the names that I prominently know.
Okay.
Because you are a voice of reason when it comes to a lot of things with this. And I have said,
try to be.
I have said for years that at the very least, our government allowed something to happen as a means of control, passing laws, what have you. And there are a lot of rabbit holes that people have dug over the years. My job as a host with this show specifically is to help unmuddy the waters from the dirt that's been kicked in from all the rabbit holes being dug. To talk to researchers like you who say, yes, something happened, but let's back things up and let's look at things from a different light, given new data. Because unfortunately, a lot of people don't like looking at new data. It may clash with the paradigm that they've come to accept, things like that. So how did you first come to the world of, what's your background, work-wise, and how did you come to the world of 9/11 research and investigation to begin with, David?
Okay. I teach physics. I mean, I'm retired now. I'm a physics teacher, taught physics and math in high school level and junior college level, and astronomy and so forth. So that's my field. And one of the things that when around 2006 or 7, I'm not quite sure just when it got started, but I started, my sister actually went to a conference and brought a DVD from somebody who had a bunch of 9/11 stuff on it. And the thing that I would forget the narrative on there, but the videos that they showed, the clips, like showing the buildings coming down. The thing that impressed me about like the North Tower when it was coming down is that it was just like it's blowing outward so much. It was just billowing out. And that seemed weird to me. And there were actually chunks. You could tell that there were heavy materials that were being thrown out sideways. In fact, they were actually out farther than the dust cloud. So it was leading the dust cloud. Here is this prominent chunk of stuff, which I later basically figured out was probably one of their wall units. The units were like three stories tall, 30 feet tall, and with three of these columns with a couple of spandrels. And so those would be multiple tons. How many tons depends on where it was in the building. It was stronger and more bulky at the bottom and tapered down. Anyway, but it was at least maybe figure 4 tons, okay? But it was out there leading ahead of the dust cloud being expanded horizontally. And I got curious. I said, boy, that's going fast. I wonder how fast. And when I say I wonder how fast, my brain starts thinking, how would I figure that out? And I just, at that point, I just took a ruler and freeze framed the video. And I looked up some data on the internet for how wide the buildings were, like 69 meters on the wall. And so I calculated from how far down and how far out it went. I was able to figure out a trajectory and estimate the speed. It was being thrown horizontally. My estimate was it was being thrown horizontally at about 60 miles an hour. That's coming out of a building. How would you throw like a multi-ton object, whether it's 4 tons or something else? How would you throw something like that horizontally out of a building at 60 miles an hour?
Especially a building that's going through natural collapse.
Well, whatever it is. Okay. So that was one that really hooked me. And so with that, I entered the truth movement. In other words, I figured, okay, I actually have an angle where I can actually figure out stuff about this. The other thing I came to see as time went on, I have a tool that I use when I'm teaching that you can use for measurement on videos. So for instance, say that you do in the olden days when I was in school, you had these little ticker tape things on a vibrating thing, and it makes little dots. And so you have to calculate and measure and figure out acceleration and things like that. So you drop something and you pull the ticker tape through this little bzz thing.
Yeah.
Well, okay, there's a much easier way. If you take a video, say I just take an object and drop it. I just take a video clip of it, import it into this program. The one I was using earlier on was called Physics Toolkit, but there's a newer, better one that the audience can actually download off my website. It's called Tracker. I actually have a kit you can download from my website that has some of the primary videos and the calibration data and instructions on how to download a free copy of Tracker. And you can do the measurements yourself, and you can learn it. But anyway, so I use Tracker, and so if you go through the video, say that you're just dropping a ball, and you want to learn about acceleration of gravity, go bing, bing, bing. So you put a mark on each instance of the ball, go frame by frame, and the software captures the position and the time from the frame rate. And so with position and time measured, you can measure acceleration, velocity, momentum, kinetic energy, all of these things that involve parameters for motion. And so you can just read it off. And if you want to, say, take a ball and throw it up, and it goes up and down, and you find out that it's accelerating downward at 9.8 meters per second squared is the magic number in metric units. That's the acceleration of gravity. And it's, by the way, it's accelerating downward as it rises, as it's at the top, and as it's coming back down. I just touched a little bit of physics there. So even though it's slowing down as it rises because the acceleration is downward, and it's speeding up as it comes back down because the acceleration is downward. Anyway, you could see all that. So that's the type of thing that you use this for, is teaching physics concepts.
Awesome.
Well, I look at the motions on the World Trade Center and say, I wonder how fast that's coming down. And so I basically got into this. I had an opportunity to give a talk at a physics teachers conference at Occidental College in Southern California. They had this physics teachers day at Occidental College every year. And I knew the people that organized that. I participated a lot with that. And so I said, here's an audience that's actually going to appreciate it if I do some more quantitative stuff. So I basically actually back then I was using Physics Toolkit, which is a cruder version of the same thing. But basically I measured everything that moves. You know those little jets that come out, the squibs? Okay, just shooting out the side at 150 miles an hour, by the way. So here's this jet, and it's not just gas, it's like debris. You can see that it's stuff that's being thrown out. So it's being squirted out the sides, basically, somehow. So that's actually being caused by little explosions. And so anyway, so there's so much to be seen, and just watching these videos, I just got a whole repertoire of stuff that I had measured. I put it on YouTube, and then Justin Keogh, one of the guys who was a board member at Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, contacted me and said, how about you join our team? So I got invited on, and I started. The thing that was nice about working with a group like that was that you have other people to talk to that are it's a peer group. So Justin's into physics, and other people are into engineering and so forth. So I'm working with engineers and physicists and all sorts of people, okay? And so pretty much everything I would investigate, I would sort of I'd make my little video description of that, and pass it around and have it internally peer reviewed by this group of guys who would critique it. And the other thing is I was not an expert at doing the videos, and one of the guys on our team was more expert at it than I was, and I learned a lot about that. There was another guy who was doing a lot of videos himself on YouTube, but he was it was like he was archivist. He had all sorts. He had everything that's out there, good quality. But he had an ability. he knew exactly what he had and where to find it. So I would describe, okay, I saw this interesting thing going on with this video, and it's lined where the corner of the South Tower is lined up with the steeple of this church, and it's sort of right on the edge. Oh, I know which one that is, and that would be in my inbox within the hour.
Wow.
So it
Wow.
was like, and he would find good quality copies, whereas I might find on the YouTube like a 5th generation thing, you know. And
Captured off somebody's VHS record.
Yeah. So basically, I was able to get to do much more higher quality measurements and so forth.
Yep.
So that's what I got into. Then what I really became known in the movement for is one of the things that these guys, Justin actually said, you need to measure building 7, because there's a lot of people saying it's coming down at free fall. Is it really, or how close, and so forth. I measured the North Tower, and it was not coming down at free fall. A lot of people said it was, but it wasn't. It's coming down about 2/3 of free fall. So I just set that aside for the time being. But building 7, at first, the pictures you get mostly have the camera looking up at it, which is not a good angle if you're trying to do measurements. But he found there's several other pictures that are taken from farther away that have the camera level with the roof line.
Yeah, where you can just see a couple of levels of the building and then the roof and the.
But you can see the building, but the camera is looking level, and that's critical.
Yeah.
And because then the measurements are real rather than having to take an angle into account.
That's right.
So I measured it, and I was rather surprised. It came down absolutely precisely, bingo, right at free fall. It wasn't like almost free fall. In fact, in the way it rounded out, it actually looked like it was slightly more than free fall. That's not real. That's, measurement error. But it was I described it as indistinguishable from free fall.
Yeah.
So, and it went for 2.5 seconds, and it had sudden onset. It was there, and then it was immediately a transition from being fully supported to being in absolute free fall.
Yeah.
Free fall implies there's absolutely zero support.
Yeah. No resistance.
No resistance, whatever. So all those columns in the building had to have been basically their supports. The support of those columns had to be eliminated. So they're being blown out somehow. And they're being blown out rather than progressive collapse like NIST was trying to say, because the roof line came down level.
Yeah.
And that means all across the building, it was failing simultaneously, and it let go all at once. I measured 3 out of the 3 visible corners, 3 out of the 4 corners. You could actually see and measure them. They all they all started down and transitioned to free fall simultaneously within 1/10 of a second.
Yeah.
And so it's something that's a coordinated, that building 7 is 100 meters side to side. Okay. It would cover a football field.
Yeah.
Reaching into the end zone a bit. Okay. It's 100 yards and a meter slightly more than a yard.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's that size building. And how are you going to get that size building to collapse straight down through its structure at free fall?
Yeah.
It has to be. There's no way around it. It's being blown out.
Yeah.
So it was laced with explosives.
Well, and especially the fact, and I want you to know, David, WTC7 is the point that I give most people. Feel free to look into it and let that be the new point of data that you may take into your data set, because that is the one that changed my mind. Yeah. It was the one that was like, wait a minute, I've got to look at the other things that people are talking about and at least give them credence to look at them. Whether or not I go down that rabbit hole any further, I'm at least going to look at it.
No, building 7 is not a rabbit hole.
No, absolutely not.
We're talking about a very concrete, measurable thing that's in public view.
Exactly.
It's in public view. There's nothing to say you can't measure it, and you can measure it yourself. You download the stuff off my website. You can do the measurement yourself.
Yeah.
And I actually have given this to some students. I can justify that. It's not politics. It's not being political.
That's right.
It's a public event of great significance, And here's a tool that I've been having them use for other things in learning physics.
Yeah.
Use that tool and measure that. There's a question out there. People say, oh, it's coming down at free fall. And NIST was saying, oh, it's coming down 40% slower than free fall.
Yeah. Which
That's
is a marked difference.
That's
a vast difference.
That's a blatant lie.
Yeah.
But they can discover that for themselves by just, hey, you don't need me to tell you that.
Yeah.
Go measure it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And once again, it's one of those, when you dig into it and when you start looking at those things, it really becomes an undeniable fact.
Yeah.
And once again, that leads you down. Well, if that's not the way they said, what about the rest?
Yeah.
And looking into that,
Well,
and then you can get into squibs with people
okay,
and stuff like that.
Let me tell you about the North Tower.
Please.
The North Tower, I've said, comes down 2/3 of G. Well, I revisited that because, okay, what's the meaning? If it's coming down at 2/3 of acceleration of gravity, but if you do the graph, velocity versus time is the key. And so here it's just being supported, and it turns a line, and if it's a straight line, that means constant acceleration. Well, if the graph has a straight line graph coming down, so it's accelerating downward the whole time, but not at G, at 2/3 of G. So I thought, Now, for that case, you have to do the equations. You set up, in physics, you set up what's called a free body diagram. So you have a block, and you say, what are the forces acting, and figure out the acceleration. Guess what? It turns out that if it's coming down at a uniform acceleration at all, it is basically being resisted by less force than its own weight. So here is... So it turns out 90% of the support, in the case of the North Tower, 90% of the support has been removed. Okay? That's the way the numbers work out.
Yeah.
But it takes the knowing the physics to get at it.
Yeah.
Building 7, the advantage is any idiot can look at that, and you can tell that doesn't look normal.
Yeah, even comparatively, when you put it next to a hotel that's being taken down, it's mirror image.
Yeah.
Mirror image.
So building 7 does it for free.
Yeah.
No physics needed. The North Tower, it comes out with exactly the same result. It had to have been demolished. It's an implication. It's not like it's questionable. It's absolutely just as certain as building 7, but you need to know the physics to be able to get that result.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can get there and I say that's just as good a way to show it as building 7. But for the public, building 7 means you don't even have to worry about the equations. You just get the fact that it's free fall and you're home free.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's some of the stuff that I did earlier on.
Yeah. Now,
And
let me ask you this: as far as comma and letters and your position as a teacher, and even amongst your research associates in the field of physics, David, how was your presentation received by your associates when you were like, "Hey, I want to show you this, folks. Tell me what you think."
I happened to be working the last 9 years of my career. I was teaching at a charter school that worked with homeschool families.
Okay.
So it was sort of a little bit of a hippy dippy kind of a school.
Sure.
And the person who was the head of the school was, she was supportive. She thought I was doing good stuff. And
Great.
So I didn't get any pushback from my administration. Now, other people, like Stephen Jones, lost his job over this. He was at BYU.
Yeah.
And Kevin Ryan was working for Underwriters Laboratory. He lost his job.
Yep.
And there's various other stories like that. I was lucky that the people that I was working with were supportive of my efforts and so forth. So.
Yeah. Well, and this is the reason I ask is because this is a topic that we bring up regularly on the show when it comes to people with commas and letters behind their names. You can say what you want, folks, about like, oh, science isn't. There's a real fear when you have spent your career on something, you have a new point of data to add to the system, but what you're going to add to the system totally bucks the system. You can talk about, at that point, programs losing funding, programs losing grants. Once again, you losing your job, you being discredited as a physicist.
I was a high school teacher,
kinds
so
of
it's not
things.
like grants and things like that came in. However, yeah, I was lucky to have that environment that I wasn't persecuted for.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to come back to one other thing, though.
Please.
Okay. Let's go back to Building 7,
Okay.
and I'd like to show you the implication of free fall.
All right.
Like, what does that say about, in real world terms, what does that mean about 9/11? So I did, by the way, I did a series of articles on medium.com. If you look up medium.com and you put free fall and you put my name, it's sort of hard to look it up in their search engine, but you'll find it because there's a lot of other stuff out there.
Yeah.
Or you can go to my website, and I have a link to it. It's called 911speakout.org. And right up at the very beginning of that, I have a link to the Medium article.
Okay.
Okay, the Medium article, I go through the whole business of explaining free fall and so forth in a series, okay? I think it's a 6-part series. But at the end, what I do is I say, okay, what does this mean? If you accept or come to the conclusion that Building 7 had explosives, and that's what brought it down, then here's what follows. Those explosives had to have been planted prior to 9/11.
They weren't done overnight.
So that tells you it was not a surprise attack. That tells you it was coordinated. So who's coordinating? Well, somebody laced the building with these explosives. Somebody had to come up with these explosives. It turns out some of the people in the movement have figured out that they were using nanothermite, which is a military-grade version of thermite,
Yep.
nanoparticles rather than regular grains of iron oxide
yeah.
and aluminum.
Aluminum.
So iron oxide and aluminum, but if you have nanoparticles of that side, you get reactions that go so fast you can actually use it as an explosive or as a rocket propellant and various other things.
Yeah.
Okay, so you found nanothermite, unreacted chips of nanothermite in the World Trade Center dust, and you also found iron spheres, iron microspheres in the World Trade Center dust, billions of these things.
Yeah.
So where do you get iron microspheres? Well, you had to melt some iron and disperse it as droplets, which means you have an explosive environment that's going to spray this molten iron, and then it cools and solidifies on the way down, and it joins the dust as little iron spheres. There's billions of these things out there, and I have a little sample of not very high grade World Trade Center dust. You can you can see iron spheres all over the place in there.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, under a little, hey, you can get a USB microscope for under $100 and plug it in.
And you can see it.
And you can look at your own.
And, there are a lot of people out there. I'll look at the camera as I say it. If you doubt the existence of nanothermite, feel free to visit Curious Realm or Curious Research and put /knowledge. Go to our knowledge vault, and right there is the actual, patent for nanothermite.
Okay.
I did that before Richard Gage came on the show a few weeks ago, because one of the things we do, like I told you, is try to demystify these things. So if there's a program out there or a patent, we put it on there so that we can actively show it on screen and show these things exist. This is not
I haven't seen the
conspiracy
patent.
theory.
I saw the article that Niels Harrit and Stephen Jones and there's a collection about half a dozen people who participated in this research project, but they're identifying the nanothermite in the dust. And that, I have a link to that on my website.
Incredible.
So you can go there.
Yeah.
So let me finish my little narrative. So you basically start from, you have explosives in Building 7. That leads to pre-planting, which means foreknowledge and participation in the event.
Yep.
And it involves coordination. Well, this puts constraints on who we're talking about. Who has the ability to coordinate the planting of the explosives, the access to the buildings, has the expertise to do the planting of the explosives to make it effective and to make it a timed, triggered event. And then you have to coordinate with the military to not shoot down the planes, okay, and the FAA.
Yep.
You had to coordinate with the State Department because they brought some of these guys in from Saudi Arabia through a particular consulate, I believe it was, in Arabia. There was a particular guy where a lot of those people came through that same guy and sort of got phony baloney visas here. Mm-hmm. Well, so you're coordinating with him. You're coordinating with NIST because NIST created the most incredibly bungled, terrible report. Their report is absolutely garbage.
It is literally Swiss cheese.
It is really, really garbage report on Building 7.
Yeah.
And, I mean, maybe the
Gaping
general
holes.
public doesn't recognize that by reading it, but, anybody...
Yeah.
I'm reading it. I mean, I rip it apart in terms of the part where it overlaps with what I'm doing research on.
Yeah.
So the point is, somebody is who has the ability to lean on NIST, which has a great reputation as a scientific body, and to get them to produce such a garbage report. Well, who's upstream from NIST? NIST is in the Commerce Department. It used to be called the National Bureau of Standards.
Yep.
Okay. And the Commerce Department's in the executive branch of the government. So upstream from NIST, you got the White House.
Yeah.
So who's in the White House that might have something to do with this? But I mean, I'm saying the trail leads right there.
It does.
So you really do have major implications. So even though it seems like a simple measurement of one little corner of the event, it is. There's so many things about the event that could be researched, but that one little corner literally leads you to the White House door.
It's a linchpin corner that when it falls, the whole narrative crumbles.
It's one such linchpin like that.
It's literally
and there are linchpins all over the place.
Absolutely.
Go to there's the financial crimes part of it. There's all kinds of different aspects that people have researched.
Yeah.
So my particular angle is the physics of it. And hey, high school physics, just the simple, let's measure that motion.
Yeah.
Let's figure out how it's moving. And then think about it and understand what is the implication of what it is you just measured.
Yeah, precisely.
I mean, so that's some of it. If you go to 911speakout.org, I have all of my research there. And I have John Cole's research. He's an engineer.
He'll be coming on tomorrow.
He's coming on. Okay, his research is there. I have a lot of Wayne Costy's research there. He's another engineer.
Yep, he was just on.
I have Frank Legg's research. He's a chemist from Australia. He died a few years ago, but I basically took over his website and I've reproduced it as a subset of my website.
Oh, great.
So I've archived his material there. He did a lot of pioneering work, especially investigating the Pentagon and so forth, and the World Trade Center as well. He's done a lot on all of this. So anyway, it's a big site, has a lot of stuff. If you go through my tab, I list each of these people. You go through my tab, I have lots of little short clips. Like some of them, by the way, you can see stuff being blown out in this cloud. And if you track some of these things, here's a chunk of stuff that's being thrown out of the South Tower, and then boom, you can see it explode and go into two directions.
Yeah.
So you're seeing explosions, and by the way, boom, the things that went out, they split. So it goes from 1 to 2 to 4 pieces, all from one chunk that starts with. And so you're actually seeing high energetic reactions within the debris that's falling out of the tower.
Yeah.
And that's just by looking at these videos forever.
Absolutely.
And I can say I don't know how many hundreds of hours or thousands of hours of looking at falling buildings I've done over the last decade or two. But I started about 2006, so that's 19 years.
Wow. Wow. And, like we've said with a few people, sadly and horribly, it takes a long time for a lot of people to heal about a lot of things. I think that we as a country are finally coming to a point and to a head where people are ready to accept some of these very hard truths that 20 years ago on the cusp of this incident, they were just not willing to explore the concept because of the injury personally of the attack. I get that.
I can see that.
I get that.
I get that. However, there's another side that people who were damaged by this event or had people, the family members or whoever were...
deserve their justice.
Yeah, they need justice. I mean, they
Absolutely.
need... I would think... I know it's hard to raise the topic again and all that, but they need resolution.
Yeah.
And part of that resolution is to know the truth.
That's right.
So I would think that's the case. It's up to, they have to come to terms with it on their own. But that's my contribution,
Yep.
is try to get things that I can know for certain. So I do not like the whole spinning of fanciful theories out there,
Yeah.
and the more outrageous the better, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's destructive. I think it's
I think
important.
it is destructive to the conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's important to keep your feet firmly on the ground. And the kinds of things I'm doing, and the kind of things that I was involved with other people that were doing early on, and what I'm continuing to do. So I'm currently coordinator for Scientists for 9/11 Truth, and I'm also on the board for International Center for 9/11 Justice. And in both of those groups, we're basically having people have rational approaches to this. We're keeping our
Good.
feet on the ground.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
It is massively important. And I want to thank you for doing that, because like I said, this is a topic that I have wanted to explore for a long, long time. I have wanted to talk about it. But one of the things that I do not do on my show is dig rabbit holes and kick dirt into the water that we're all drinking from.
Yeah.
My job is to help unmuddy the waters,
Right.
help people who cannot understand some of these deep, thick, hard topics, and talk to people like you who are grounded in the science, who are grounded in, let's look at this from a scientific point of view, and the science just doesn't add up.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your years of dedication to this. One last time, Mr. Chandler, please let everybody know where they can go to find out more about your work, where they can go to get involved with your work.
Okay. My website is, and it's my website, but I've brought in several other engineers and scientists of various kinds. Anyway, that's 911speakout.org. And then I'm involved with International Center for 9/11 Justice. That's IC911.org. And Scientists for 9/11 Truth. That's scientistsfor911truth.org.
Absolutely.
So those are the three things there. If you go to my website, it has, you'll be there for a long time. It's a huge website. I'll tell you this: if you're just getting started in this, if you go to the 9/11 Speak Out website, on the front page, the very first video clip is Building 7. So many people haven't seen it. Okay, a little 5-minute thing with all the different points of view. The second video is a talk I gave at the University of Colorado in Boulder several years ago, and it's about an hour-long talk. But that one video is probably the best concise summary of my research. So if you want to understand what I've done on this,
nutshell it.
it's my research. It's not all angles on this. There's a lot of other people who have other kinds of research. But if you want to understand the kind of research I've done, it's encapsulated in that one video, I think probably better than anywhere else. Then if you go look at the tab, and I have a Pentagon tab if you want to get into that. I have the tab that has all the different researchers that I have archived on my site, and you can see what each of those guys are doing and so forth. So
incredible. Well, thank you so much once again for all your work. While you are online, checking out everything from 911speakout.org, as well as the International Center for 9/11 Justice at IC911.org, everybody. Make sure to stop on by RichardGage.com or RichardGage911.com, as well as CuriousRealm.com. That is where you can like, follow, subscribe. That's where you can find all of our live coverage from amazing events like this one. Stay tuned through this quick break. We will be right back with our continuing coverage of Turning the Tide 9/11 Justice right here in Washington, D.C. right after this, folks.
The key to good science is good research. At the heart of good research is a good data set. With the field observation and encounter log from Curious Research, you can easily keep track of your investigative information all in one place, making it easier to review cases and readily see comparisons and contrasts between them. Whether out in the woods squatching, in a back room gathering EVPs, or using high-tech gear to track UFO, UAP activity, this easy-to-carry, pocket-sized scientific data log is the perfect companion for any field researcher. You can find your copy of the Curious Research Field Observation and Encounter Log at Amazon.com or visit the official Curious Realm store at curiousrealm.com/store to reserve your copy for yourself, your family, or a mind that you want to open. That website again is curiousrealm.com/store.